in your support system, so you can fall back to. This is something which is extremely important because you're going to fall back 100,000% and more than once. Engagement in comments or engaging in, I don't know, like podcasts and stuff like that, it's not gonna cut it. You need to have meaningful conversation. Good sales culture in your team is that when your sales reps wanting to help each other as bad as they wanting to beat each other and to compete with each other.
Sales is not everyone's forte. I know some people actually dread it. But for successful growth, you need to make sure that you master certain skills, and selling is one of them. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Sales Therapy. I'm not your typical host, Alper, ex-salesperson turned co-founder, and this is your show, Sales Therapy, where we discuss past challenges in terms of selling and growth of today's leaders, how they learned from their experiences so they could continue their careers and flourish, and hopefully always end on a good note with a hint of vulnerability. So in this episode, I'm very happy to be speaking with Eimri Bar. He is the founder of Bloom, which brings a fresh breath of air to the world of sales development. You'll hear all about it. But Eimri is an entrepreneur, he is a founder, and he's been in the world of B2B sales for quite a while. He has lots of great opinions that I like to follow on LinkedIn, and today I'm looking forward to a great chat with lots of practical tips, I'm hoping. So Eimri, welcome to Sales Therapy. How are you feeling today?
Extremely well, Alper. Thank you very much for having me. Really exciting to be here.
Excellent. Well, think of this as any of our conversations that we normally have. And as I find my way around in the world of podcasts, I'm actually trying to make it a bit more interactive. And you and I, we bounce off great ideas of each other, and we're trying to crack a few similar things. So I think it's going to be a great chat. But first thing first, because it's therapy, let's start with your childhood. Let's have the audience get to know you a little bit better. Like, where did you grow up, Imre, and where are you these days?
Yeah, so I grew up in Israel. I was born and raised in Tel Aviv. When I was 22, right after the army and the military services, I kind of like book a flight, one ticket flight, and went all the way to Berlin by myself. I did my bachelor over there. Actually, I dropped out one semester before the end of the bachelor because semester before I got my first SDR role in a brand protection company, tech startup. Started to get good at it. Actually, my first cold call ever was in German. This is like a fun fact that a lot of people don't know about me. Yeah, and I was like, dude, I'm doing it pretty good. Started to get like other companies started to approach me in the space, and I was like, I don't think I need this degree anymore. So I just decided to drop out. After that, I moved over to Barcelona. I've been there for almost one year. Lived for a short while in Thailand, and then I recently got back to Israel. I have a 14 months old baby here, and yeah, now boots on the ground.
Excellent. So you have
Yeah.
2, 3 jobs. I don't know how you guys juggle being a parent. I'm clearly not a parent. I think it's the most difficult job in the world, isn't it?
It's the most difficult job in the world, especially when you're also early stage startup entrepreneur,
Yeah,
right?
you
Then
have
you
two
have like
babies.
two babies,
Yeah.
and you need to and you need to figure it out. I mean, there is no other way. Um, it's one of the hardest jobs ever, but it's also the most rewarding one. When I'm
Yeah.
going back, when I'm coming back home at the end of the day, and she's waiting for me, I'm like, dude, it's awesome.
What's her name?
Alex. It's actually a funny story because my name is Imri. It's extremely complicated and uncommon name the whole world, even in Israel. And then when I started like working as an SDR, starting to make cold calls, I was calling people from all over the world, like, "Hey, this is Imri speaking from blah blah blah," and they're like, "Who's that?" It's like Ingrid, Henry. And when we needed to choose a name for my daughter, I was like, she's gonna get the most simplest name international ever. All right, like she's not gonna go through what I'm going through. And that's kind of like how we came up with Alex. thought it's pretty straightforward. So yeah, that's a short story about that.
Excellent. You actually already answered my next question, which is, besides work, what do you do? And I think you're being a full-time dad, but do you also keep
Yeah.
on some hobbies, or other than working, are there anything you enjoy doing lately?
I wish I would have done it a little bit more. I wish I had a little bit more hobbies than that. Um, I'm a sport fanatic. I'm working out almost on a daily basis. I was actually playing professional basketball since I was 5. Then around 18, I got injured, tried to get back, didn't quite, took a turn, started to do something different, but it kind of like it will stick with me till the end of the days, I guess.
Yeah, I love how in the world of sales I meet tons of people with lots of different backgrounds, like sometimes you meet um, a lot of sports exports people. I think the discipline, the kind of that mentality is really helpful. I'm not a very sportsy type myself, but I meet like ex-police officers, psychologists, hence why I'm always fascinated by therapy, and sales therapy is the name of the show. But we all come from different backgrounds, and now we're trying to achieve similar things. Let's talk about that a little bit. So, what's top of mind for you at the moment? What are you currently working on these days?
So currently we're working on my new company, my new startup, Bloom. Bloom basically takes a new approach to B2B go-to-market and marketing, and we do it with human-led growth. That's how we call it. We think the world of sales and B2B marketing is going through a major shift at the moment, which I guess we're going to touch on a little bit later on the show. And basically, we strive to help companies humanize their go-to-market approach with personal branding, founder brand, um, demand generation more on a personal level. Yeah, so that's kind of like the main focus at the moment. We started to onboard a few design partners and pilots. So we're testing out a few different possible solutions, I would say, to see what success and hopefully to go out as soon as
Yeah.
possible to the market.
I think what you're doing is definitely similar to what I am doing in terms of like eating your own dog food. First, maybe testing, your methods, your ideas with your own business and making sure that they stick. And I think you do a really good job of sharing that publicly on your LinkedIn. You get a lot of interaction in terms of, the ideas that you bring. What I
Yeah.
really like about following you is you always have a lot of practical tips and advice for people. So we're
hmm
going to dive into that. But before that, maybe for anybody who's new to these terms like human-led, near-bound, what is human-led sales for you? What does it mean?
Yeah. So for me, human-led sales is the art of selling the way our buyers buy. All right. And what do I mean by that? Buyers today, they don't want to be contacted by salespeople, as harsh as it sounds. Buyers today don't want to be spammed with cold emails, as harsh as it sounds. Buyers today don't want to be interrupted by cold calls, as harsh as it sounds. They don't want um, to be bombarded with paid ads running all over the screen while they're scrolling social media. What what do buyers want? All right. So buyers want to talk to peers. They want to communicate with them. They want to buy, or they want to engage with trusted advisors. They want to buy from familiar brands that they feel that they know them. So that's what they want. All right. But in my opinion, or the way I see it, most go-to-market motions are still going in the wrong direction of how buyers don't want to buy. So for me, human-led approach is maybe even less about how we sell, but how about buyers buy. And now, how can we adapt ourselves to this new go-to-market motion?
I
So that's
love
for
that.
me is
Yeah,
yeah,
obviously, whenever you say we talk about like what buyers want, what buyers love, you're definitely, I'm not gonna say preaching to the choir, but that's the area that I love talking about because with Flow,
right.
that is kind of what we're trying to bring, that buyer lens. Because if you as the salesperson hate having to chase people with tons of emails, cold call, actually your buyers hate the whole process even more than you. And the one thing that I wish every salesperson experiences firsthand is to be a buyer. The moment you shift that and you become a buyer of a product, a tool, and you experience how much friction and complexity is in the process, I think you start building a bit of empathy, and that's how you become. I guess that's how you become a better seller more quickly and hopefully make more money from that. Let's
Yes,
talk
yes,
about
sir. 100%.
let's talk about how to get there. So for you now, building your product, which aims to actualize more human-led
Mm-hmm.
sales, diversify the
Right.
way people they develop sales, etc. How are you eating your own dog food, let's say? Like, what kind of activities are you planning to do for yourself that are applicable to
Right.
everybody else's business?
Right. So I started to build my personal brand around 8, 9 months ago. Um, Basically started posting about sales and stuff that I was kind of like curious about or was kind of like passionate about. Um, and I saw the impact that it has. I started to grow, started to get more followers, more engagement. Now the all all of our funnels is coming from LinkedIn. Everything is inbound, no outbound or anything like that. We will implement outbound, but in my opinion, the way of doing outbound is smarter way of doing outbound. It's not like taking your old TAM, buy some lists, and then go spam them. The
Yeah.
way for me, the way I see outbound evolving is build an audience that knows you, that follows you, that engages with you. Now, go ahead, reach out to them. Now you turn cold outreach into warm outreach. Now you reduce the resistance and the friction between you as a seller to the buyer. All right. So we first of all we want to develop this familiarity. So this
Mhm.
is the number one. This is the number one thing for us at Bloom to do. So we aim to build all of our founders' brand. Um, Starting a podcast, just as you do, invite some colleagues, invite some other peers in your industry, invite prospects to talk on your show, build relationship with whatever you can. Um, and now, after you have this community, the opportunities for you to go and tap into like different monetization opportunities, I call them. This is a much easier step than
Okay.
starting straight away from B2C.
I mean, that's all fine and fair because now you're a founder, you have your product, you're trying to, build that brand, and it all makes sense and it's great, etc. But
Hmm.
how about an SDR at an established business? I don't know, 100 employees or even more, or an
Right,
SDR at a business where, it's not necessarily software, a software tool, and it's more
right,
traditional sales. How about those people? Like,
right.
like, does that apply to them?
I think it's about to change. I think we start to see this model breaking down a little bit,
Hmm.
and SDR teams, huge SDR teams, just extremely inefficient. And I think what we're going to see in the next few years, maybe I'm wrong, but that's strongly my belief, is that we're going to see smaller, more efficient sales team.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is that the SDR is going to become more strategic role, and the companies will start hiring SDRs based on the relevancy of the audience that they have, based on the reach and the people that they know. So I would hire personally 2 SDRs who have big audiences which are relevant to my business.
Hmm.
Pay them way more than I would pay any other junior SDR,
Hmm.
and then instead of having to hire 10 of junior, I would just hire 2. And I bet the results and the efficiency will be much higher. So I think the role is going to shift in that way. Or alternatively, um, SDRs will be just for 1 or 2 to just capture demand, but the demand creation, the demand generation side would be dedicated to one of your SMEs, subject matter experts, in your company, where which they have their audience, which they engage with the audience, they provide, and they publish thought leadership content. All right, and now the SDRs can tap into their audiences. But the way I see it, we're definitely going to start seeing more and more and more companies going in the direction of community building, and then just kind of like adjusting their sales team to that.
Yeah. Just to bring a lens of psychology into that, I think Gone are the days, as you say, of mass outbound, and marketing and sales are different, or even product are different functions, and they do their own thing. I
Mm,
think now people are looking for that authentic connection. They don't want to be wasting any time with just sales talk, because if this is gonna end up in a conversation with a sales engineer or somebody who's actually knowledgeable about the product, somebody who can bring value, let me go to them. And the reason I say psychology is we all want to associate with um, somebody who is capable, skillful, and strong. Actually, the very primitive instinct is we want to associate with strength, and strength in our date
right.
is information and data, and what no one else has, right? So everybody's looking after that, and therefore we want to associate with what is cool, interesting, sexy, new, informative, and those who are bringing that to their audience. I think everybody wants to associate with them rather than being bombarded with like generic messages.
100%. There is also this concept of the 5% active buyers, 95% passive buyers, which pretty much aligns with this concept completely. Because nowadays, sales teams, or most sales teams that I came across, they're all going for the 5% active buyers. So the outreach approach is designed to reach out to those who are ready to buy right now. But what happens is that when you reach out those 95%, most of the time it comes across as spamming. But when you understand that, and when you go or transition your SDR team to more demand generation activities, which in
Yeah,
my opinion, SDRs should be under marketing,
yeah,
now you're starting to target those 100% of the market. So those 5% who are ready to buy, yes, they'll know how to approach you, but those 95%, as soon as they're ready to buy, you'll become top of mind, and that's what you want to achieve.
yeah. I 200%. That's actually, it's funny. Like, as I started the Flawless journey, I've been in sales for 10 years. I started my first outreach emails. Never been a fan of cold calls, and I was forced to do, and then I forced my team to do, but it didn't work for me. Anyway, that's a topic that we can discuss further. But I remember the days of doing mail mergers and sending personalized emails one by one, because I was selling a very high intent product, a very personal relationship, go and meet the buyer at the events, and then, never bombarding and spamming. And then all these outreach tools, and I started going more like high velocity sales. And even early days of Lola, we were opting for that more traditional outreach approach. But I quickly
Mm,
discovered what you're describing, which is there's going to be 5% who is high intent, educated, ready to buy your stuff. But there's a whole 95% low intent. They fit your ICP. They are the people you want to help. You know desperately that your product works for them, but they have no idea or interest about you. So how do you warm them up? I mean,
yeah.
that's the question.
And the problem starts when companies are raising money, and now they start thinking about, okay, so I need that that so that amount of leads to hit in this quarter.
Yeah.
How am I going to get there? All right, so they set like extremely ridiculous goals, which they break down to like some benchmarks,
Yeah.
some industry standard benchmarks.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so that's the amount of activities, that this how many SDRs, but
Exactly.
we don't have time to generate demand because it's going to take too long, and we have those numbers to hit this quarter, and then it's just become like a vicious cycle. So marketing, in my opinion, should be not an afterthought, but that should come at the beginning of starting any startup. So it's product plus marketing. Start talking about the problem that you want to solve. Start talking to your audience, your potential audience. Start engaging with their content. Start interacting with them. All right. Put yourself out there. Not only that the feedback that you'll be able to get is invaluable, but the long-term relationships, and the fact that when you will have something to sell, you will also have someone to sell it to.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you have the expertise, the network already cooking there. I agree. And something that is like the billion-dollar question, like, is sales development under marketing or sales? I think
Mm,
that's something that every organ, each their own, but I think we're definitely going in the direction of it's becoming a role like demand generation in my mind. And I think the whole
Right.
team is getting entangled into it. Like nobody's immune from demand generation. I think gone are the days of generate me a pipeline and I will convert. And now it's blending into each other.
I agree. How do you do it at Flola at the moment?
Oh, great question. It changes. We iterate all the time, and we share something that got a really good traction in terms of thought leadership. We put out there is how we book more meetings, how we actually um, divide between high intent and low intent, and then the different activities we run for each other. At the
Hmm.
moment, we have reduced the size of our SDR team, and our SDR team is very specifically going after high intent. So people who engage with buyer enablement, digital sales rooms, they're already thinking about it, talking about it. So we're on LinkedIn all day, every day, figuring out who might be already educated. And for everybody else, low intent, it's a lot of our effort of content, what we put out there on LinkedIn and other channels.
Mm,
And a lot of, if we're doing any kind of outreach, it is very targeted and it's very educational and very generous in the sense that, uh, your peers are looking for this kind of information. Here it is. If you want to use the template, it's free. That sort of thing. That's how we warm up. And a lot of people appreciate that because it's no longer a spam to book a meeting.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. And you opened Pandora's box there because I love this topic and I love iterating on it and I'm trying to figure out new ways and share them all the time. It's fun, really.
But by the way, your or your sales team is pretty privileged because you're at the end of the
Why
day you're
so?
selling to salespeople,
Uh,
and because at the end of the day you're selling your sales team is selling to salespeople, right?
do you think
You're
it's a
right.
privilege? Come sit on my seat. Let's talk about it again.
And I see it as a privilege with building your personal brand, all right?
Okay.
Because in the end of the day, the type of content that you're creating needs to align with your audience, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you see those salespeople selling to CFOs, but sa- only talking about sales,
Yeah.
and their profile is like super
That's
sales
terrible.
oriented, and then they're like, LinkedIn doesn't work for me. Like, why would it? Like, imagine you're a CFO and you see a connection request from a salespeople. What would you think? Like, oh yeah, cool, let's accept it. Like, no, it's just another sales pitch coming my way. All
Yeah.
right. So that's another like huge mistake I see salespeople are doing with their personal brand, and then kind of like, why doesn't it work for me?
Yeah.
Because the type of content that you're creating has to be aligned with your audience, pain points, desires. You need to position yourself as a trusted advisor. You need to position yourself as a peer. And whether or not this is viable for a junior SDR, I don't know. All right. But that's why I think like we're going to see like a major shift in the way SDRs are being looked at or positioned.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's going to be like more SMEs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all starts with knowing your audience and something that you can never be great at, and you always have to strive is to understand your audience. If you hate feedback, if you're afraid of it, you need to do something to change your mindset. Feedback is gold. Like people are telling you how to get to money faster, even if it feels like
Hmm.
they're telling you off. That's great. So listen to your audience, listen to what they care about. And one thing I think community building is really important. You said that I'm pitching to salespeople, so it's a privilege. I agree. I think it's a virtuous cycle because I learn from firsthand, like what are they doing, what's working and not. But at the same time,
Hmm.
salespeople, because of the nature of what they do, they smell bullshit. So if you're trying to apply anything that is less than par, you will fail miserably with salespeople. Are
Right.
there anybody you look up to, anyone who you feel like is doing a good job of building their founder brand and sales, sorry, their community? It can be from the sales tech world or elsewhere.
So there are several companies who are doing brilliant job. There is Dream Data with Laura.
Yeah,
She's like leading the charge. Awesome. Then there are competitors actually. So Hockey Stack. You see them all over the place. You see everyone's creating content. They're like super content heavy, and it works amazing for them. Gong.io, obviously, these are like the pioneers, I think, in my opinion, of all this content-led growth.
Yeah.
And also personality-led growth. They started with like Chris Arlov, then Devin Reed, obviously their CEO Amit, their CMO Udi, and all the other folks in Gong. Um, Apollo, they're doing amazing job. I mean, there are some really, really, really good companies
Yeah. As
you
you
can
say, this.
imitate, um,
Yeah,
but
the
I think
sales.
not enough. I think not enough.
Sorry, I caught you there. I think
Please.
sales is definitely leading the way. I also would add, there's a company that I really like, and how they achieve it. I forgot the name of the head of content there. I'm sorry, but the company is called Juno, if I'm not wrong, and it's like a contracting tool. It's a tool for lawyers, legal advisors, general counsels, and stuff at companies. The
Mhm.
reason I really love that company and how they strategize their content, it's an example of how you can do it in another sector than sales tech. If you start learning about who your audience is, how they're consuming information, what they're interested in, then you can build the right content and build a community around it. And they've done it with like legal
Mm.
people who are not always the sexiest, in an organization. As we all know, it's not seen as the best organization. Some people, especially in the sales world, we see them as sometimes roadblockers, whereas the people are just trying to comply with law and trying to help us to, do things in the right way. We as salespeople sometimes come off as, like, let's just make it happen. Why are you stopping my deal, right? Anyway,
The,
so
the, the,
they
the bottlenecks.
the bottlenecks, yeah, the
Yeah.
yellow sticks. But anyway, so these guys are doing a great job appealing to them and creating very interesting content for them. So anybody who doubts does it work for other sectors, just know thyself and then know thy neighbor, know who you're selling to, and you will learn from it
Right.
and do great things.
I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be LinkedIn, right?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
first, I think the first step of efficient human-led growth is know your audience. Where are they hanging out? Where are they consuming content? What communities are they taking part of? What are the events? What are the podcasts they're listening to? All right. Now you need to put your people in the right places to engage with them, to educate them, to create relevant content. And this is how, in my opinion, you achieve efficient human-led growth. So it doesn't have to be LinkedIn. LinkedIn is another social media,
Yeah,
but the generations are also changing, right? And more people right now from Gen Z are taking charge, and these are the people who are more social media native. And then will come a day when also those heavy industrial, I don't know, like industries, those people will also be on LinkedIn and
yeah,
social media because
yeah,
this is the generation. So
exactly.
building your brand and positioning your people is not necessarily for the near term, right? But it's for a few years from now where you'll be able to dominate the market. You'll be the leading voice. So it's very long-term strategy here.
I love that. I love that you give that perspective, and it is something we need to start talking about more, because I read the study. I forgot I will put it in the link for sure, the source, but it's something that is talking about the changing buying behavior and the buyer profile. I think it was a US study, and it predicted in a few years, over 50% of buyers will be actually women. So in the buying committees, we'll see more women prevalent, which is a fascinating fact, because just the other day I was posting about, like, can you please recommend me more women sales influencers? I don't have enough of them on my profile,
Right.
so I'm trying to kind of actively seek something, that should naturally be there. But I think having that mindset is important. That be ready for change because it is just happening anyway. So be ahead. Great.
By the way, talking about human in sales, I think some of the most brilliant salespeople I've ever met were women. So I think 70% of the purchases I've ever made were to women salespeople. So yeah, more power to them. And
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
I'm very proud to have a majority female commercial team at Flow at the moment, with the new additions to
Mhm.
our team especially. So one question I have for you as we move into the, you mentioned Gen Z, so we have a TikTok section, which is 3 questions in 3 minutes. But before that, I like to
Let's do
ask
it.
this one, especially as you're coming to the end of the year and maybe starting to prepare a wish list. So if you had a magic wand, what would you like changed in your work life these days?
If I have magic wand, what will change in my work life right now? Um, more money.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's
I
not that
guess
easy.
my money, money.
The magic wand only helps you to get to money. So let's put it in another
Okay,
way.
got it.
If you want
Got it.
one challenge solved more easily, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say customer feedback,
Mm,
100%. Customer feedback, user feedback. Right now, I mean, we are piloting our software, but I'm sitting all day trying to contact people like, hey, let's talk. All right, I need to get some feedback about what we're building to see that we're building the right thing. So if I could get more of that, I guess we'll be able to accelerate things much faster.
I love that. And I think now you're a product builder and you want that. I had the same revelation when I started building Flowla, but as a salesperson, the biggest gift is to start actively listening as soon as possible. And that's actually feedback as well,
Mm,
you know? So if you start thinking about what people tell you as data and facts and you stop talking and start listening, I think you'll win much sooner and you'll get to money faster as well.
hmm
All right,
for sure.
excellent. Let's go to the 3 rapid fire question section if you're ready for it. So in this
Hit
section,
me.
I'll give you 1 minute to answer each question, and I will ask you first, maybe as a founder, um, what one advice would you give to somebody who is making that transition from sales to being a founder?
I think there are a lot of similarities here. And this is definitely something that really helped me become a founder. But I don't think there's like a magic bullet. I think you just need to dive into it, understand that you're going to face a lot of challenges, which being a salesperson really helps with. You also need to understand that you're going to have to take a lot more responsibilities than just getting traction. You're going to have to do product, you're going to have to do engineering if needed, you're going to have to do design, you're going to have to do customer success, you're going to have to do a lot of other things. You're going to have to talk to investors. And I really don't think that you can prepare yourself in a good enough way before you start.
Yeah.
The best way of becoming an entrepreneur is basically starting and get the right people on your team or in your support system, so you can fall back to. This is something which is extremely important because you're going to fall back
Yeah.
100,000% and more than once.
Yeah. If you didn't say it, I was going to add that on. And I posted about that today. I think a team, your friends and family, and your network. And we live in an age where it's free to network with people and they have to help you and you can help them out too. Great, great advice. Now,
Power
this
of
one will
community.
be a little bit loaded. I think we had a great chat with lots of practical tips. So I want to
hmm
summarize some of the juicy content there into one question. In the
hmm
new world of selling, in this human-led sales approach, can you
hmm
share some very practical tips for someone who is trying to change the way they do sales and develop business?
Talk to your buyers, talk to your audience, understand how they're making buying decisions, understand where they're hanging out, understand where they're consuming content, understand your buyers first, understand how do they make decisions, and then take it from there, then adapt. All right. That I think that's the first step. If you haven't nailed this one, everything else is going to fall apart because you're gonna keep selling the way you think is right, which is usually isn't the way to go.
And once you understand your buyer, maybe like you don't have infinite amount of time, so you need to focus on certain things. What 5 things do you
hmm
think are helping you build more audience, build more network, and eventually close more deals? Is it a podcast? Is it this or that? What are those things that they should do?
conversation and engagement. I would say, creating content it's important, but you can create amazing content. If you're not engaging with other people, they're probably not going to engage back. And engagement in comments or engaging in, I don't know, like podcasts and stuff like that, it's not going to cut it. You need to have meaningful conversation. By the way, this is another shift I think we're going to see in terms of KPIs. Instead of like measuring only like, okay, meeting booked, how many meaningful conversations did you have today? All right. How many people did you help? Because that in the long term will add up, and will lead you to where you want to get.
I love that. Actually, one of the KPIs that we have at Flowla for SDRs is that how many meaningful conversations you've had today. And I'm
How
sure,
do you
like,
measure that?
yeah, people will be asking about reporting as well. So we, at the moment, it's quite easy because we're a small team. We rely on self-reporting. But I think as somebody who is key, like I am SDR numero uno at Flowla, right? As a founder, my job is to
No
generate,
surprise.
create awareness.
Yeah.
So I'm all over LinkedIn all the time. So when I'm not seeing or hearing things that much, I'll send a little message like, "What are we doing, guys?" But generally, I don't need to do that. And final remark would be anything you would like to add, anything that you feel like we didn't cover in this conversation today.
Be good people. Be good
Yeah,
people. Help other people. I think that's the biggest growth hack. Just interact with other people, help them without expecting anything in return. Without expecting any, we are in the instant gratification era. We are in the 21st century. We all want to get results yesterday if possible. But it doesn't happen like that. And better, more successful people than me said and preached that already. But I think that's if I would have to give myself a couple of years ago biggest advice, yes, that would be it. Like help as many people as you can.
yeah, generosity is free. I think that was the most powerful advice, along with shut up and listen, that I got from my first sales bosses too. I remember one who said, I was struggling a little bit in the sales team and like trying to make my way in and etc. Especially with other colleagues, and I was feeling a bit competitive, right? We all do. And his advice
Yeah,
was just be generous. If you come up with a new method, new way of doing business, share it with people and see what happens. And it was one of the best advice I had.
in my opinion, one of the best signs for a good sales culture in your team is that when your sales reps wanting to help each other as bad as they wanted to beat each other and to compete with each other. I think that's an amazing sales culture. But yeah, just to your point,
Yeah, the two have to go together. I agree. All right, Imri, this was a great
100%.
conversation, but as every good therapy session, I need to cut us on time. For anyone looking to follow you, engage with you, what's the best platform? Where should they reach out?
100% LinkedIn. Just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm soon going to start a podcast, but I think LinkedIn is, yeah, hands down the best platform.
Thank you for listening. That's a wrap on this episode of Sales Therapy. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. I'm your host, Alper. Thank you for listening and see you at the next episode. Bye.
Thank you very much.